Okay, welcome everybody to our webinar on file sharing tools. We will be spending some time today comparing Dropbox, Google Drive, and OneDrive. So the purpose of this webinar is to give you a bit of an introduction to these tools and sort of see which ones will be best for your particular needs, because they do differ in their own individual ways. I want to try and keep it as practical as possible, so I'll be digging in and actually showing you how I and how we as RNG Technologies use some of these tools inside our organization, so that you can hopefully take something away and think about which one's going to be the best one for you. So, like we've done in previous webinars, I like to keep the questions and answers to the end, but please feel free to type the question into the chat pane when it comes up, and I'll address them all at the end. Cool. So, Dropbox, Google Drive, and OneDrive, they all have been making some big moves in the last 12 months, particularly Google Drive and OneDrive. As some of you are probably aware, Dropbox is probably sort of the one that's been around for the longest. They sort of started operations in 2007. They have 200 million users, so they are the sort of market leader when it comes to personal use. But Google Drive and OneDrive are really sort of ramping up their game when it comes to business use. So we'll be looking at a few of those today. But before we start looking at each of these tools, it's important to understand why you want to use a file sharing tool in the first place. A lot of the times it's going to come down to three reasons. You want to share files with your team. You want to share files between your own devices, so that might be your work PC, your mobile device, and maybe your home PC or laptop. And then thirdly, you want to collaborate on documents with your team. So they're the three most common reasons why you'll be looking at these file sharing tools. So Dropbox. Dropbox is a free service that lets you bring your photos, documents, videos all together and share them easily across your devices and with other people. So I've been using Dropbox for probably 5 years now. Mainly started as personal use and then sort of started using it for business use because it's just really easy and simple to use. So when it comes to sort of pros and cons, Dropbox is an established player in the market. So like I said before, they've been around since 2007. They've got 200 million users. It's the most popular cloud storage provider, particularly for personal use. They do have business options now, but they are sort of just still finding their feet with that respect. But other pros are, easy to share files, seamless syncing with devices. So they've got really good Android and iPhone applications. The cons are really just when you want to be starting to use it for business use, their business offering is still finding its feet. They do have Dropbox for Business now out, which is getting a bit better, but as a business, it's hard to sort of trust them to an extent because you've been so used to using it for personal use. And the last con is that their data does reside. If you use Dropbox, your data will reside outside of Australia. So if you do, particularly for not-for-profits with concerns around data sovereignty, that can be a few problems. So let's have a quick look at how Dropbox works. So Dropbox, when you sign up to Dropbox, you'll actually have a program that you can install into your computer, and it will actually come up here inside your favorites. So it's actually just like a folder inside your normal PC or Mac. So for instance, here you can quickly access all your files, which are actually all hosted in the cloud, but then synced to your particular device. So this is my Dropbox folder. We'll look at, say, an example that we use for RNG technology. So for instance, with invoices, instead of me having to email invoices to accounts, every time they come in, I actually just upload them to a Dropbox folder. Because I do a bit of work remotely as well, so I can upload documents, whether I be in the office or at home working, and make sure that these invoices actually straight into the Dropbox folder. I can then share this Dropbox folder with the accounts people, with just a click of the button. So I'll show you how to do that. So you basically just go, one like that, and then you can share the Dropbox link by clicking this, and then it'll open up Dropbox, and then you can share that specific link with, say, accounts person or someone else, and they'll have access to all those files instantly. So the real benefit here is that instead of having to email things backwards and forths, you can work with your colleagues and your team and have a centralized folder where you can store all your documents and have instant access to them. Now, if you're working on a document, that's actually, say, a Word document or something like an Excel document, you can also do a similar thing. So instead of having different variations of your particular file, you can have one variation where everybody has instant access to it, can update it, can save it, and it'll automatically sync to the cloud and then sync to all the devices that it's being shared with. So another example of how you may sort of look to use this inside your organization is if you're working on a particular document, like a blog post or an email or something that goes out. For instance, I do a lot of blog posts, so I might need to share this document with my director so that he can approve it. I can then upload it to Dropbox. He can open it up and have a look, make any edits, and then approve it and save it. I can also share this particular document across different devices. So say if you're working on something at the office and then you need to work on it at home, instead of the old way of emailing it to yourself or putting it on a USB drive, you can now upload it to Dropbox. It'll automatically sync, and then when you get home and you start working on your home laptop and you need to finish something before deadlines that particular night, you can then open it up on your home PC or laptop, and then you'll have instant access to that same document. The third big benefit of Dropbox is sharing and sending big files. So if you've got files that are maybe 10 megabytes, 20 megabytes, you'll know that sending them via email can be quite difficult. So again, Dropbox is a good way to do that. For instance, what we do with some of our big files from a marketing standpoint, we've got big Photoshop files, presentation files, 27 megs. So we can upload this to this Dropbox and again just share this particular file via a Dropbox link to the particular people that you want to give access to it. So when I'm working with a web designer or a graphic designer, when I'm working with graphic designers, which we're talking 2 gigabytes of files, I can upload it to the Dropbox. They can then access the Dropbox, pick the files, make the edits, and go from there. So that's Dropbox. I'll quickly show you sort of what it looks like. It does have an online sort of web-based sort of version as well, so we don't have to just access it via the Windows Explorer. So for instance, we can also access these files via a web interface as well, so all the invoices can be there. So you can share each of these individual ones. You can see who's opening them, who's closing them. Makes it nice and easy. One second, I've just lost my slides. Right, so Google Drive. So Google Drive is similar to Dropbox, file storage, synchronization service provided by Google. So Google Drive is part of the Google Apps suite. So Google Apps includes things like Google Docs, Google's PowerPoint version, all sorts of stuff. So in terms of pros, I do use Google Drive mainly because it really works well when you're using Google Docs, because it has seamless integration. So if you're working on Google Docs with a particular team or a colleague, you can quickly sort of save that to your Google Drive and then access that instantly. Works much the same as Dropbox, but the benefit is that you can quickly sort of edit those files and collaborate with the Google Docs. Also works well with Gmail. The cons are, if you're looking to use Google Drive, I'd suggest you have to make the switch to Google Apps. It just gets really messy if you're trying to, edit and share sort of Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel files, because there's a lot of converting and things to do. So it can be hard for a team to adjust. We haven't sort of adjusted to sort of using Google Drive here. We're definitely a bit more of a Microsoft house, but in some other roles I've had, we do rely on Google Apps. So let's just have a quick look at how we'll use Google Apps here. So Google Drive, you can see, is very similar to Dropbox. So again, you can, when you install something on your computer, you'll have access to a particular folder where you'll see all your files. So for instance here, similar as before, we can access our particular documents. So again, bringing in a real sort of world example of how I've been using Google Drive to sort of show you guys, collaborating on a particular document. So you can see here there's two different file types. When you actually initially save it into Google Drive, you'll save the initial Microsoft Word document, and it might be like this. So you can open that normally just like a normal file. But what I believe is the biggest benefit of Google Drive is you can then convert that into a Google document and enable collaboration. So when we talked about at the start, what were your needs? If you are looking to, collaborate, Google Drive is a reasonable solution. So if we then go into the web-based platform of Google Drive, this is what it looks like. So again, similarly, you can access all your files, folders, whatnot. If we then pull up this particular file here, this is one I've been collaborating on with a colleague for a particular blog post. So what's happening here is that Chris has actually saved the file onto the drive. I've converted it into a Google Doc. So now what we can do is we can collaborate on this document sort of instantly and really easily. So this is using the Google Docs function inside Google Apps. So you can quickly see, you can edit this, you can make comments, right-click, comment. When it comes to collaborating, it's really easy to use. Like Chris has left a comment here, I can then comment, resolve it, make sure that everything's really right, save it, and then what happens is that will automatically be saved here, and then when we access it directly inside this, we'll also have it available to access. The challenge is that, if you are using Microsoft Word, you'll have to convert that file before you can collaborate on it. So for instance here, this is the initial Word document. I'm going to have to then right-click that, open with, and then you open with Google Docs. So you actually have to convert it to Google Docs before you can start collaborating on it. So that's one of the setbacks, and can get quite confusing. But like I mentioned before, if you're going down the route of Google Drive, it does offer the benefit of collaboration, but you're going to want to move to using Google Docs so you can extend that sort of capability. Right. Alright, so OneDrive. So OneDrive is Microsoft's cloud storage product. So it's previously known as SkyDrive. So they rebranded in February 2014 with the goal of sort of bringing things a bit more sort of streamlined with their Office 365 suite. So the big benefits of OneDrive is that it syncs with your Office 365, so your Word, your Excels, online versions of those programs, and also syncs with SharePoint very well. So if your organization is familiar with using those products, then OneDrive sort of is probably makes the most sense in terms of moving to a cloud storage platform. Probably another big benefit is that they've announced that you get 15 gigabytes of free storage when you sign up. So that was sort of an announcement they rolled out in June this year, which is a lot more than what you're going to be getting with say Dropbox. Dropbox, when you start out, you'll only be getting 2 gigabytes if you sign up just for a free account. So that's a big benefit. Let's see here. So we've talked about some of the pros there. The other big pro is that it works well with other Microsoft devices. So whether you're using computers with Windows 8, Microsoft Surface, which are those new tablets, and then Windows phones, by using OneDrive, you can sync it really easily with those other devices. I have a colleague in our team, which basically he just rolls around with his Microsoft Surface. So when he has meetings, he can go to the meetings, open up his Word files. It all syncs with OneDrive. So then when he gets back to the office, since he's already made some changes on the go, he can access that file when he's back in the office and not have to do any emailing or sending things via USB or anything like that. The cons are that OneDrive for Business is still quite new, so Microsoft is still fine-tuning some of their business product range. Like the personal use program, it works well, but their business options are still a bit cloudy, so to speak. There is a bit of confusion around OneDrive, SkyDrive, so when it comes to your team, it may be hard for everyone to pick up. And then finally, their Android and iPhone applications are still a bit of work to do as well. I've tried using it with my Android device, and there's a lot of bugs. So bear in mind, if you're wanting to capitalize on some of the mobile, using it on your mobile devices, it may be worth waiting a little bit. All right, so let's jump into OneDrive. So OneDrive works similar to, again, the other two in terms of opening. It'll install something and then it'll act as just a folder inside your Windows Explorer. I actually don't have it on my computer at the moment, but it would just come up similar to Google Drive and Dropbox here. Let's have a look at their online platform. So again, similar to the other programs or those other cloud storage providers, you can store your documents and files on here. Let's have a look at another couple of examples. So for instance, I've got another blog post that I've been working on and collaborating on. So we're able to upload it to OneDrive and again share this particular link with anybody that you want to collaborate on. They'll then have this file inside their own particular OneDrive accounts. Now what I really do like about the OneDrive solution is that it automatically is syncing with your other Office 365 products. So we're looking at Office, Word online, Excel online, PowerPoint online. So all the products that you're very familiar with working with currently, this makes it very easy to transition to a cloud storage solution, because you can quickly come in here and then collaborate on it in a seamless interface that you're used to. So for instance here, if we wanted to edit this, we can quickly edit it online. It opens up a little Word online. We can make the changes, automatically saves. We can make comments and collaborate on it seamlessly, save it, and then what happens is that document will then be saved right here, and then your colleagues will have access to it. You'll have access to it. And it saves a lot of time. Again, same with the other ones. You're not having to email different versions, losing the right copies, saving on USB, all that sort of stuff. Now, OneDrive for Business extends on this, and you can actually sync it up with, say, your SharePoint. So if you're using SharePoint, which is an intranet collaboration tool, part of the Office 365 suite, you can actually then sync it up to the files inside SharePoint. So, when it comes to sharing documents with entire companies or entire team members across your whole company, it does make it really easy and efficient. Right. So that's a quick look at each of the tools that are available. There are other ones that I haven't addressed today. For instance, Box has an option. But the key here is finding a tool that your entire team can use. I think a lot of the time the problem with these cloud storage tools and systems is that everybody uses their favorite one, so therefore there's not that sense of collaboration, because if I'm using Dropbox, a colleague's using Google Drive, why do we have to have 3 different, systems all running at the same time? It makes it hard to manage your files. It makes it hard for you to, collaborate easily and efficiently. So the idea is to have a look at each of these 3, I'd recommend, with your entire team, whether that be a team of 5 or a team of 10, and, work together to see which one's going to fit your needs best. Quick insights from sort of what we've discussed here. Dropbox is really good for sharing sort of files quickly and easily. If you're working with big files quite often, Dropbox is an ideal solution. If you want more collaboration, then you're going to be wanting to look at OneDrive or Google Drive, because it extends the capabilities so you can edit those Word files, edit those Excel files instantly, save it to the cloud, sync it with your devices, whether it be your home device, your work device, or your mobile device, and make sure that you have that correct version. All these products have trials, so you can give them all a go. You can download them, make sure you feel comfortable using them. In regards to pricing, Dropbox, you can get started for free, but you only get the 2 gigabytes. You can upgrade to 1 terabyte, which is around sort of $10 a user, which isn't too bad. It doesn't have a not-for-profit pricing model, whereas the others do. So Google Drive, price-wise, you get free. The free account is up to 15 gigabytes, and if you want anything more, so you can get a terabyte for around $10 a month as well. But they're not-for-profit pricing. If you are eligible, you can get their whole Google Apps suite, which includes Google Docs, the Excel, PowerPoint versions, plus 30 gigabytes for free. So I'll include, with the follow-up email that I'll be sending out today or tomorrow, I'll include some links to those sort of details. And finally, with the OneDrive, if you just want OneDrive by itself for personal use, you can get a free version with 15 gigabytes, which again is plenty. If you wanted to upgrade and get up to a terabyte, you'd be looking at $2.50 a user. But what I'd recommend is that you take advantage of the not-for-profit pricing for the Office 365 suite. So that includes, your Word, your Excel, everything like that, SharePoint, Link, all these really good productivity tools, and they've got really good not-for-profit pricing of around $6 to $7 per user. So I'd recommend you sort of take advantage of that one if you can. Right. So that's the wrap up. Before we open up Q&A, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about what we do at RNG Technology. So we are a ICT consulting firm with offices in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. So we specialize in working with non-profits nationwide. So we understand your individual needs that are quite different to, say, the corporate market. And our goal is to be your IT partner, so a single source for all your data, cloud, and IT support needs. Right, so I'll check the questions now. So again, I tried to make this sort of short, sharp, concise, sort of practical. So if you have any questions and you want me to sort of dig in and show you how one of these tools works now's the time to ask, and I'll monitor the questions now. All right, so we've got a couple of questions. Tanya, with Dropbox, can people work on the same document simultaneously? So Tanya, no, that's one of the sort of disadvantages of, say, Dropbox is you can only work on it once at a time. And then once you sort of save it, then the next person can open it up and access it. So you don't have that capability to collaborate in that sort of visual format like you can with the Office and the Google product. cost comparisons. Oh, so I touched on that slightly for you, Tanya. Tanya's just asked about the costing for each of the options. So I touched on that again. I'm going to follow up with a bit of an email with some more information on that, so you can have a bit of an extra look. I'll send that with an email in the next sort of today or tomorrow. All right, John has asked which has the best security. So, John, they're all very, very, secure. These guys wouldn't be sort of in business if they did have any flaws. I suppose the concerns when it comes to security are, really around how you manage the people and the devices that the data is stored on. So, for instance, if someone loses their mobile device and on that device, you've got sensitive data, things like that is where the security concerns probably lie most with these sort of products. So that's where you need to be implementing some mobile device management and stuff like that, where you have programs that you can use to sort of restrict access. If a device has been lost, you can wipe that device from all the files. You can lock it up so no one can access it. Does that clear things up for you, John? Cool. So Jenny's asked which is my recommendation and what we use probably the most here. Well, for me, I use Dropbox the most just because it's just really easy, and I do a lot of work in the teams that I'm involved in with big files. So when we're talking websites, graphics, things like that, Dropbox I've found works the best. Now, I am a bit of sort of a hybrid, so when I advocate choosing one product for your whole team, since I work across a couple of teams, I do also use the other tools as well, and I really love the OneDrive solution just because it syncs really well with existing Microsoft Word Online, Microsoft Excel Online. So when it comes to working with colleagues that are used to Microsoft products, it means I don't have to train them on how to use it. They're pretty comfortable with making that transition to the cloud-based products. All right, so Nicole's asked what's the best practice when moving data from a traditional shared network to, say, OneDrive. So depending on how many files, Nicole, if you've got sort of a lot of data there, then there'd be a migration sort of checklist that we advocate you use. So you'd want to be backing everything up initially, and then moving it over to the OneDrive. So depending on how many gigabytes of data that you have, that can be very time consuming. So if you're talking a terabyte of data, that's going to take a while to actually upload to a OneDrive. 130, Nicole says. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Just takes a bit of planning, but yeah, you'd first want to make sure it's backed up. And then work with your particular internal IT manager, IT provider, to make sure that they are picking the right time to upload that data, because you don't want to be doing that during the middle of the workday, because when you're uploading all that data, it'll actually put pressure and strain on your entire network. So we'd be advocating doing that sort of off hours and making sure you do have backups, so if anything does happen, you do have a copy, and then also once all the data is on in the cloud with OneDrive, you'll want to make sure it's all there and everybody's comfortable with using that solution before making the full switch. No worries. Any other questions before we wrap it up? So Tanya's asked, is OneDrive progressing relatively fast with their Android iPhone apps? So they're getting there. I do believe that in the next 6 months they'll have very good apps for Android and iPhone. Not just OneDrive, but also their other Office, Words, links, all their other sort of products. I think they're just sort of been a bit slow because they've been really pushing the Windows products, so they focus primarily on making sure the mobile apps for the Windows platform are working, really well. And unfortunately, some of these other apps have been sort of left a little late. But I'd say in 6 months' time, we'd hope that they'd be running a lot smoother. But you never know with Microsoft. It's sometimes hard to move fast with them because they've got so much, they're so big. All right, so that's the questions for today. So again, thanks everybody for jumping on today. This is part of our RNG Technologies webinar series. So we do one of these webinars every couple of weeks. I know we've got some exciting ones on SharePoint and software as a service next month. So just be on the lookout for, we send through a monthly email, so be on the lookout for that if you want to jump on them. But if you do have any other additional questions, you've got my email on the screen there, and I'll also be following up with the webinar recording, so if you want to share it with your colleagues, and it'll also include some additional details regarding pricing and how you can sign up for these services. So thanks again for joining me here, and until our next one next month, have a good one.